We are here at a polling booth in East Vic Park. One of the key areas for us, and there's been a really strong campaign in this area, partly because Labor have frankly dropped the ball and just gone on good planning once again, and have proposed a motorplex down at Birdswood. So that's been one of the key issues that our local candidate Jack here has been working on.
217 million to bulldoze our community spaces and our natural spaces. The residents have said it pretty loudly and clearly that they don't want to see their community space taken away. So we're seeing a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of passion to try and make this seat marginal, to put that pressure on them, and we're getting a lot of one vote Greens in response to the lack of consultation that the community's received here.
So can you tell me a little bit about how voter turnout's been today, how the reception has been?
Yeah. The enthusiasm's great, and people really are looking for change, and they're disappointed by the lack of climate action, by the lack of action on housing, and by the fact that our big corporations continue to not be taxed in any way. So we're feeling a lot of enthusiasm, and I think that will be shown in the votes.
And I think it'd be fair to say that this Labor government has been probably the most conservative Labor government in the country and probably in the history of this state. And we are giving people a progressive alternative around, if they care about climate action, they care about environment, they care about housing, someone to actually vote for who can actually bring about change. Because as we say, if you want change, you've got to vote for it.
So you told me a little bit earlier about the Birdswood plan. What's the Greens' stance on that?
Yeah, so the Birdswood Park had a 20-year plan already in place, and that's been completely disregarded to put that tarmac across our community space and our wetlands. Again, we're completely against it. Stop the Birdswood motorplex and consult residents before you do such a big development on our land.
In regards to anyone who hasn't yet voted and is still undecided, do you have, as leader of the Greens, do you have any words to them or any advice?
Yeah, I would say, look, this is a great opportunity to actually make Labor better. We know that Labor's going to win the lower house, but what your vote does is actually remind Labor that they shouldn't take the community for granted, and if you care about issues from climate to housing, then vote Green. In fact, and then in the upper house, we are really hopeful we'll get the balance of power and we'll hold them to account and make them better and actually get action on those key issues.
Ivan, any other questions?
I just want to ask you, at the end of the day, the voter turnout, you say that it's getting more and more positive at this point. Do you expect more people to vote Greens this afternoon?
Look, certainly it's been encouraging. We've seen our polling, between 10 and 12%. If that flows through to the final vote, that will mean that we'll get a minimum of 4, hopefully more, in the upper house of the Parliament. And with that comes the balance of power. And that's where we can get really influence change in the Parliament in a way that we haven't been able to in the last 4 years. The last 4 years, frankly, the Parliament's been a rubber stamp for Labor. And this is an opportunity to flip that and actually make it so they can't rush legislation through, and we can actually make amendments and actually make stuff more progressive and more responsive to the change that the community really wants.
Can you explain to the layperson who might not be so familiar with the political process about how having the balance of power in the upper house actually impacts, how laws are made?
Yeah, so the laws are originated largely in the lower house where the government's formed, but the upper house is the house of review. And in the Legislative Council, then we can actually take those laws and we can amend them, or we can actually introduce our own laws ourselves. And what that means is the government can't do things without support of the upper house. Now, Labor will have a fundamental choice. Do they want to negotiate with the Greens and make things better and more progressive, or do they want to negotiate with the Conservatives, with the Liberal Party, and make them worse, frankly? We are hopeful that we want to make Labor better and actually make those laws better, and this is a real opportunity for people who want a more progressive Labor government, not a more conservative one, to vote for us.